I had an experience of no mind. Your mind is quiet. What a surprise I was in, that was not the goal at all. And I was in pain. And then it started happening. So I was like, oh, panic, with like panic attacks. My asthma was actually somehow a deep panic, a fear of dying. This open surgery still being like open. I really understood Vipassana only after 9 days. This is a summary of my first Vipassana seminary that I ever sat. Perfect equanimity. Before I delve into my Vipassana experience, I firstly have to tell you what made me want to go to do Vipassana. And that starts even like 7 years before. Because in 2007, I had an experience, maybe 2008, I had an experience of no mind. Now, no mind means that your mind is quiet, right? You have no chatter, no thoughts, you have no music playing in the background, you don't see, like pictures or moving pictures in your head, like there's nothing. You just take in what you see and what you sense, but it's no active mental chatter or anything. And then when you want to think, you actively turn on the thinking process, and then you think, and then you turn it off, and everything's quiet again. Which is this was a very, very amazing experience, because I had the experience. I didn't want to go for this experience back then in 2007 and 8. I wanted to cleanse. I did a fast. Actually, I fasted, and I was fasting, and with the fast I read a book, Eckhart Tolle book, and I did some of the exercises of focusing on the moment. And then day 4 of my fast, everything just went silent, and I felt like I could see things the very first time with new eyes, like trees, and the very first time I could really see the tree that it is, without calling it tree in my mind or putting a label on it, but just taking in what it is without any labels. Yeah. And so that was a really beautiful experience in 2007-8. And then when I could stop my mind for for a few seconds, but then the longer I didn't have this experience again, the shorter the time period went. So after a while I could only stop it for like half a second, and then in 2014 I couldn't stop my mind anymore. My mind was racing all the time, and it was really tiring for me. So I decided I have to get back my sanity. I have to get back my quiet, beautiful place of my mind that I had before. And so I decided to go and do meditation, and that's why actually I signed up for the Vipassana meditation retreat, because I thought this is going to give me a quiet mind, silence within. What a surprise I was in, that was not the goal at all. And then I got there, and I that's all I wanted. I just wanted a quiet head, no thoughts, just quiet head. And then you get there, and then I thought, oh yeah, the silent thing, I had no problem with that. I was like, yeah, let me ignore everybody, I'm just with me. And then I started to learn the technique, and I discovered that it's not just like a retreat where you just relax, but you actually actively learn something, like a technique to go through your mind. And then my work ethics kicked in, and I was like, ooh, yes, let me learn this. I'm going to be very diligent. Yes, I'm going to really use my time. And then for 9 days, it was, well, maybe not 9. Yeah, it was difficult, even the first 3 days, because the first 3 days you kind of like do a anapana, which is just focusing on sensations that your breath gives you around this area. And then the last, the 4th day, I think, till the day 10, you do the Vipassana to actually look at your physical sensations in the body. And practice being calm towards these physical sensations, right? And I was in pain. Like I was in pain so much, but I was like, no, you're diligent, you're going to learn this, you can do this. And until the evening of day 9, where I was like, okay, I had a knife in my bag now for, I don't know, like 5 days or something. Um, I don't feel anything working here, like things coming up and dissolving, not at all. I am so tired. The day after tomorrow, I have to go back to work. This was my vacation. I can't do this. I'm just gonna use the last few moments that I have and the last day to just relax and try to get to that part again where my mind calms down, the experience I had 6 years ago. So I was like, yeah, fuck this, I'm just gonna relax. And I physically relaxed. And then it started happening. So I was like, oh, so what started to happen is, first of all, my pain, I had like a knife in the back. I felt like there was a knife in the back, and that was really bothering me. And I tried to really be calm against it, towards it. And then when I relaxed, I could be more calm, mentally. Um, and then I was like, oh, yeah, no, it's not so bad anymore. I also found sitting positions that are more favorable for me, so I don't feel so much pain. And then that pain went away. And then um, pains came, physical bodily pains that I had before, because I used to be a dancer. And then when I was in my early 20s, I was in The Lion King. It's a musical in Germany and in France. And I think in Germany, I had like a shoulder thing. I had a shoulder problem because you kind of like have to live with the girl and carry her there. And I couldn't do it for a while because I had the shoulder problem. And then this pain came back in my meditation, and I was very calm, and it stayed, I guess, a couple of hours, and then it went away. And then before that, it goes back chronologically, right? So that was my early 20s. Then in my teens, I was a dancer, and I had like a chin thing with the skin on my bone. It was irritated, but for like a year, it was like really bad. It had an inflammation. And so that came back up, and it was really intense, right? And I was like, oh my God, this works, right? You just sitting there, all these old things come up. So then that came, stayed a while, and went away. And then my asthma came. So when I was a child, I had allergic asthma, and that asthma came back up. And I was like, ooh, and because that was intense, because it wasn't just the physical sensation of the asthma, which was more intense than my asthma, than I remembered my asthma, because it felt like a metal rod being shoved down my throat till like here, and then my lungs burning on fire, which is like a very uncomfortable sensation. But I was like, yeah, let's practice equanimity towards this. I can. But then it was accompanied with panic, with like panic attacks when I would, and not during the meditation, but when I would wake up. And I would sleep like at least twice during the day, always after eating, after breakfast and after lunch. And I would try also after dinner to sleep at least a few minutes to recover, to be able to sit again and meditate. And every time I would wake up, usually with the gong, I would have like such an enormous panic attack. And with that panic attack, this sensation in my lungs, that my lungs are burning in this metal rut, it became like unbearable. And then I woke up and I had this panic, and I oriented myself. I was like, all right, I'm in a meditation retreat. Oh, I'm practicing equanimity. And then I calmed myself down. And with calming myself down, the fear obviously calmed down, and also that sensation calmed down. So it became less. And that made me think, oh, that sensation, like my asthma, that's what I kind of like deciphered from it. My asthma was actually somehow a deep panic, a fear, maybe it felt like a fear of dying, and asthma obviously can kill you. Like if you can't catch your breath, then you can die. And I was like, this is so interesting, because now I knew as a child, I learned after a while, from my own experience, that I just have to calm down and be calm And my mother obviously told me, and the doctors told me, to calm down and control my breathing, and then I'm gonna be fine. I just had to stay relaxed. And so I kind of like did the same thing already with my asthma without knowing, without being it, like without calling it a technique. But then I really, really realized I think my asthma wasn't just a genetic thing. I feel like it was some kind of deep trauma of immense fear or panic that I had that came out as asthma. And that was like a big revelation, that these old things that you battled with, they can come back up. And then since I started so late in the process, only the end of day 9 and then day 10, it was like so open, right? And like it was flaming, and I was like, how am I gonna live my life? Like, I can't go back with like burning lungs into my life. What am I gonna do? And then they had this metta. Metta is like love meditation and sharing your merits with everybody. And I was not ready to do that because I was in pain and trying to stay calm towards my lungs. And so I felt like I had to leave with like this open surgery still being like opened up my chest. But it dissipated within 4 or 5 days. That's it dissipated more and more, and the sensation was gone. But yeah, that was my aha when I realized I like working doesn't mean being diligent as in, a dancer, diligent, sitting up straight and, fighting it, but like really relaxing your muscles and learning how to be relaxed and equanimous. And that really also means relaxation for me. So that was my first seminary, and it was a grand opening because it was about physical pain. It was all about physical pain and how to endure physical pain without freaking out, how to relax through it. My physical, because I had a very physical background as a dancer. And that was very intense. I will record my second, third, fourth, and if I will have more, probably I'll do videos about that too. Seminaries, and I'll probably link them here. I'll make like a playlist. But the important thing is that I really understood Vipassana only after 9 days, right? The end of the 9th day, I understood what I personally really have to do in order to make it work. And it's kind of like something else for everybody. So you really, if you're interested in doing it or if you did it already, you always have to find your triggers and your things yourself that make it work best for you. It works anyways, right? However you try, but to really figure out the best way for you, you really have to do it yourself. You have to have the experience, and the experience can be so amazing when you're very diligent, but also very relaxed. Because I set all these meditations in the hall, right? I tried in my room for a couple of times. It didn't really work well. I fell asleep and just laying on my bed. So I was like, let me always go to the hall, and then that really, really worked well. Especially once I got into my body rather than just the surface later on. But you have to make sure you feel all the surface of your body first before you go inside the body. That's very important, because otherwise you just have blind spots. If you can't even feel the surface, you won't be able to feel very in detail what is happening inside. And since my dancer background, I felt the surface of my body very well, because I had to know 90 degrees angles and stuff without even looking. So that means you feel the outside of your body very, very well as a dancer, but the inside I didn't feel so well back then. So yeah, that was my experience and my big like, wow, this really works. The sankharas, which is like the past traumata that you have felt aversion against or craving for, they really come up, and if you really stay calm, they really dissipate. And that was a very physical, it was just on a physical level. That was my first one. Let me know in the comments what were your experiences with Vipassana, and what were your like big aha moments. I get that now. and how you use it in your everyday life. And I hope to see you around.
Perfect equanimity towards all sensations inside of me is the one thing that will